everyone, and Shocktober continues with episode 2. So the second movie I watched was Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock. I am a huge Alfred Hitchcock fan. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of his movies, but all of the ones I have seen are like some of my favorite movies. Like Vertigo is the one. Like Vertigo easily makes my top 10 movies of all time, and so does Rear Window. Rope is another highlight for me. But Psycho is one. I've actually seen the Gus Van Sant remake, but I've never actually seen the original Psycho. And it's like, I know the story. It's kind of hard not to at this point, especially when they have a popular TV show, Bates Motel, on it, which I now want to start marathoning because I finally sat down and watched Psycho. And man, oh man, is this movie fucking awesome. I can't believe I hadn't seen this. But Psycho is really fucking great. I love how the beginning of the movie, like the whole first half, you're following this main character who is our main character. It's this girl, and she's stealing money from her boss, and it's fucking like you're following the story, like, oh, you know, what's going on with this story? And then all of a sudden the twist comes where she gets murdered, and all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, our main character is dead. And I can see how in the 60s that would have been crazy, like a crazy fucking twist. And I love it. It still plays today. I already knew that, you know, obviously that's what happens, the famous shower scene. But it still works today. Like, you watch that movie, even if you're watching it for the first time, you would be totally invested in this character when all of a sudden they get killed. And that's a very effective way to do it. The highlight for this movie, though, is Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. I don't believe he was... I don't know if this movie was nominated for anything, but he should have been nominated for Best Actor because he is fucking great in this movie. And honestly, I know all the Psycho sequels are bad, but or considered bad. I don't know, maybe some people like some of them. But I honestly want to watch it just for more Anthony Perkins. I want to see his performance as Norman Bates and see how it evolves and see if it remains the same, because he is awesome in this movie. But it's like everything about it. Like, Alfred Hitchcock shoots movies wonderfully. There's a lot of good camera takes. It made me want to watch the remake again, just knowing that, like, in the remake it's shot for shot and that Vince Vaughn is the one who plays Norman Bates. And I remember watching it, and I remember his performance being a little weird. Like, he does this weird laugh, like like he's laughing all the time, and that's kind of his demeanor, which is not like the original Norman Bates at all. He kind of put his own spin on it. But the original Norman Bates, he's like a calm, proper guy, and you like there's like two twists in this movie. First, there's the murder of the girl, who, I'm sorry, I don't have her name in front of me, but so she gets murdered in the famous shower scene. Which the one thing I'll say about this movie, with it being dated, is like the murder scenes, it's so clearly cut away or like edited specifically. It's like, oh, you know, like they didn't really have the technology we do now to like fake this stuff. So like you watch it happen, it's like, oh, that looks a little hokey nowadays. But overall it still works, and it kind of, like, the old film charm of it is kind of one of the things that pushes it for you. But I love the movie. I'm just gonna, so I if you follow me on Letterboxd, you'll actually see a lot of the movies I'm going to be talking about that I've rated. If you want spoilers to see some of the movies I might be talking about, if not, just wait for the episodes every day. So I just want to read the log line on that they have on Letterboxd right now. But it says, when larcenous real estate clerk Marianne Crane goes on the lam with a wad of cash in hopes of starting a new life, she ends up at the notorious Bates Motel, where manager Norman Bates cares for his housebound mother. The place seems quirky but fine until Marianne decides to take a shower. Which is, that's kind of a weird log line. Like, if you didn't know what the movie was about, if you didn't know about the famous shower scene, that would be kind of an interesting log line. So the whole idea is that you hear Norman fighting with his mother, and then the mother is the one that kills her. And then Norman has to come out and like hide the body and stuff. And so, you know, this all, I could see how this all works in the 60s, and like even to a degree it works now, but film goers are just a little too smart now, so it might bounce off of some people. So the twist is that Norman is actually his mother. It's like his mother's been dead, and like the mother that's been killing people is his split personality. And another drawback of the film is at the end we get this huge info dump, but like after, you know, he's arrested and everything that happens, it's just like a therapist giving a big info dump and like, oh, you know, let me explain split personalities in like a 10-minute scene. And the last 10 minutes of this movie is just like exposition of Norman is crazy, believes he's his mom, and the mom personality has now completely dominated him. And it's, you know, it's a little like, you know, this is a little groan worthy, but back then, you know, that stuff is passable. What was I just about to say about another thing? Okay. So I like, yeah. So so Norman is his mom, and he kills her in the shower. So what would happen? For one, there's like no blood. Like you see blood in the water, and there's like the quickest shot of like a blade piercing her skin, which it actually isn't. It's just like pushed in. And like at the time it's like, oh my God, that's horrific. That's graphic and blah, blah, blah. But like now you watch it, it's like, oh, it's so cheesy. Like she gets stabbed all over. There's like multiple stabs, and you know, we got the music, which is still great. But yeah, that was my musical talent with my mouth there. But yeah, there's no blood. Like you see a little blood fall in the water. She hits the wall and slides down. You see her back. There's no cuts. There's nothing. And you like, this would be a fucking mess. And then so Norman comes down and is like, oh, mother, what did you do? You hear his voice in the house. And then he comes down and has to clean up the body and hide it. And it's like this long scene of him, you know, wrapping her in the curtain and blah, 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 cleaning the apartment. So we know that Norman is his mom, but he comes out, he's not wet. There's no blood on him. There's nothing. Like nowadays it would be really hard to pass that off. Cause like, come on, like there would be blood on his hand or something, but there's nothing. And it's hard to believe that like anyone would buy it nowadays, unless you kind of go in like, hey, this is an older movie. Things are different, blah, blah, blah. But, those are the things that you can like look at in this movie and they're like, oh, that kind of doesn't make sense, but that's really it. And that's saying a lot for a movie made in 1960. And that's just like some suspension of disbelief and just like the art of filmmaking. So that's interesting. Again, it's the performance of Anthony Perkins that really carries this movie. Like once people come in and start questioning him and like his stuttering and his unsureness, you can tell he's trying to protect his mom, but then you find out that he's actually the crazy one. Like when he shows up in the dress and the wig, like it's a really great movie. And if you've never seen Psycho, even if you know everything about the movie, you should fucking watch this movie. It's great. It's one of Hitchcock's best. It's a classic horror movie. And it holds up. And I love watching the old black and white horror movies around October. So this is a great one to watch if you've never seen it. If you have seen it, just watch it again. It's worth it. I love Alfred Hitchcock. I'm trying to make it through more of his filmography. And this was a glaring omission of one I have not seen that I'm glad to finally check off. But that's going to be it for today's Shocktober episode. And be sure to check back tomorrow when we talk about our next horror film.